Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Lisa in Life and this series, The UNHEARD, where I'm going to be talking to some people with chronic illnesses and mental health issues, but also people who treat them. So today in this second chapter, I'm going to talk to Joanne. Hi Joanne.
Hi, Elisa.
So we've met before. You did an interview of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so today it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And I know that last time we talked just a little bit about your health issues too.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain a little bit more about that and your situation?
Okay. Thank you for inviting me on. My diagnosis is chronic fatigue syndrome, and I've been ill for it's just over 3 years now.
So what were the first symptoms you experienced that maybe led to that idea?
Yeah, the first was dizziness and sickness, and then fatigue, exhaustion, and having problems walking. I mean,
Okay.
really, it's mainly the dizziness. That's what I went to the doctors for. I went to the doctors immediately and I said, I think it's vertigo. I think it's an ear infection. And they said that could be a couple of weeks. I said, you wait a couple of weeks and you go back. And then they say, well, it could be up to 6 weeks. So you wait 6 weeks. Oh, it just keeps going on like that, doesn't it? And then blood tests and they say, oh, you're a bit low on B12. And then you get your B12 and then you go back in a few months. It just goes
So
on and on.
is it my cat's joining in?
That's fine.
Is it your GP that you were
Yeah.
having those discussions with, or did you go to see any specialists?
I've ended up going to see like the hospital here. I've also paid private for different investigations because I'm now 53, so I was 50 at the time, and so we investigated hormone. I paid privately to investigate hormones. Um, we also looked at Lyme disease, so there was lots of different avenues we were going. But ultimately, then I can't remember what the name of the scan is. I was booked for an MRI, but I struggled to get into the machine, so I had
Oh,
another type of scan, and that's through the
okay,
hospital here, and that's a specialist to do with that.
okay. So were you confronted with any you know kind of difficult sentiment regarding the doctors and how the diagnosis went? Did you feel somehow rejected at any moment?
Yeah, I felt that they were very dismissive of me. It's not at all like it is on the telly. Um,
Yeah,
that I don't know whether you ever saw House, the Doctor series.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, where he's going to figure it out, and it's like um, my experience of the doctors is even after a few months of being ill, and I'm saying I can't walk, I can't function, I can't lift things, I can't do anything. And they go, yeah, we don't know what it is, go home. That
Yeah.
was my experience of it. So we ended up spending quite a lot investigating and doing my own blood tests and doing my own research. And um, at that point, I didn't know if it was MS. I really didn't know anything. And I was just desperately searching for answers. It felt very, very alone.
I think that's something that's quite common with chronic illnesses and
Hmm.
also with mental health issues. And I was discussing this the other day in my interview with Irene. Is it's also very hard to when you have these symptoms and when you're feeling a certain way to try to explain how you're
Hmm.
feeling without sounding hypochondriac or without
Yeah.
sounding crazy, or it's really hard because you get
Or a drama queen.
dismissed. Yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
like, are you feeling, this is one of the things, I've seen this as a little skit on Facebook. It's like, are you feeling this feeling now? And you're going, well, no, not right this second. you know, you
Yeah,
just,
that's really the difficult thing too, because symptoms they come and go. They're not
mm,
always constant. I mean, there's some that are just there, and
hmm,
just on a constant level. And then there are other symptoms that, you have them some days and some days you don't. So if you
hmm,
go to the doctor one day and you're not experiencing that symptom, but you did yesterday,
yeah,
trying to explain that is really, really hard. And I think it's also what led the medical community to believe that a lot of chronic illnesses were uh psychological issues
hmm,
at the beginning too, because I mean, having someone come in and say they've been, tired for the past 6 months
Mm,
and they're, feeling really depressed. And I mean, you can see how that could lead
mm,
to, the more psychological avenue of things. But still, I mean, I think it's really, I had this experience when I was chronically ill with as a carrier for 7 years. And I was trying to explain to the doctors how I felt and the research I'd done. And every time I felt quite dismissed,
mm.
because I wasn't a doctor, so I wasn't on their level. So they were just not listening to what I had to say.
Yeah. On the basis on what you were just saying about being able to describe it, I remember going to the hospital and I already felt ill by the time it was a longer trip, and then you're waiting in the waiting room, and I
Yeah.
was struggling to sit up at that time. And she says, what are the symptoms? And I mentioned dizziness. And she said, well, what kind of dizziness? And I what do you mean? She goes, well, and she's
Eh?
tutting at me and rolling her eyes. And, well, but if you don't know what kind of dizziness it is, I'm like, I didn't even know there were different types of dizziness. You're going to have to
Well,
help me.
yeah.
And plus, the brain fog and just the exhaustion. And obviously now I'm picking up on all the vibes of her impatience with me. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to get this right. I'm trying to help her as much as I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So,
So you're talking about brain fog. So for people who wouldn't know what that is and how it feels, can you describe that a bit?
wow. Um, I think it's related to the exhaustion, and that sense of you can't remember things, and also just that you're not really thinking things through. I tell you something I did do. I'm not sure. I think I'm okay to say this. Um, my husband was in a rush, and it was 8 o'clock in the evening, and he was due to travel the next day. And I normally clip his hair, or I used to before
Yeah.
I did this. And um, I accidentally took the safety guard off the clippers and
Okay.
shaved a big part of his head. And um, and there was no hiding it. And obviously he was upset about it. I was distraught about it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to cry on this, but it was a sense of I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
Because and then somebody else was saying to me, everybody makes errors like this, and it's like when I'm tired, when it's later in the day, I cannot touch things that could be
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
I've
Because
got to
because
double
at that.
check the oven. I've got to double check this. I've got to triple check.
Yeah.
I cannot be, responsible for certain things. So although it's brain fog and you would think you're just not as sharp, it feels more dangerous than that. I think that's
Yeah.
the one thing I would say goes that step further.
Yeah. Because so in those circumstances, you didn't understand why you did that, and you didn't know
Yeah,
why you did that,
yeah,
and you couldn't recall what went on at that
yeah. It was
moment,
just,
right?
yeah, just being, as I say, extremely tired. So I think with the brain fog, and then there's a sense of um, just not connecting to your actions. And I know when I start getting tired and the brain fog comes in, I start slurring my words a little bit, and I feel like people are thinking I'm drunk and different
Yeah.
things like that. And I just can't. Sometimes I can't find the words, but also it's almost like I lose power around my jaw, and I
Yeah.
and I feel my words slurring. You're nodding.
Yeah.
Have you experienced this? Or
I haven't experienced that,
yeah,
but I know that I've heard that a lot from other people
yeah,
who have MECFS
mm,
and who and who are experiencing this brain fog.
hmm,
That most of the time when it's really hitting them,
hmm,
they don't know how to, they can't speak anymore,
yeah,
and they can't form sentences correctly. And so,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's quite a common occurrence. Yeah.
You,
How has all of this been understood or not, and received or not by your family and friends and people around you?
um, how is it being understood? I think I think um, my mom was able to see uh, during that 3 years. My mom was coming to help. Initially, my mom was coming to help, and then you realise this is not sustainable. My mom was in her 70s and different things, and so for the first couple of months, my husband just cancelled all trips and looks after me. So you go through all these stages. That's the other thing I think when people talk about chronic illness. what happens at the beginning is you think you're short-term ill. You don't know you're
Yeah.
chronically ill.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are different stages of he drops everything. And then it's like, this isn't sustainable if I'm going to be ill for longer than a couple of months. We didn't know what the future was.
Yeah.
Then he needs to go back to work and we need to find other alternatives. At that
Yeah.
point, we thought maybe 6 months tops. So my mom could help out. And then it's like, okay, now I have to be independent and I can't plan on being well. I'd
Yeah.
love to be well. I'm going to be working towards getting well, but I can't plan on that. Fortunately, if my husband is working and traveling, and if he's doing all those things, we're able to pay for help. So I now have a
Yeah.
cleaner and I had somebody preparing meals
Yeah.
and I got myself a mobility scooter and we adapted the
Mhm.
house to have a bathroom downstairs and a
Yeah.
bedroom downstairs. And so,
Yeah. Just
so
trying
in,
to adapt
yeah,
over time. Yeah.
but I think in terms, when you say about what they understood and what they didn't understand, it's just, I didn't understand. I didn't know, is this a 2-month thing? Is this a 6? Okay, this is a 6. Okay, maximum of a year.
Yeah.
I thought, so all along we're all trying to figure out what's possible and what's not possible. And certainly in the way I communicate to my husband, um, there are times when I feel like I wish he understood better. And at the same time, I'm not explaining it because I don't really want to say every day,
Yeah.
I'm tired. But generally, certainly from shaving his hair incident, we now know you can't ask me to do anything on the evening, because what was
Yeah.
happening is he may suddenly say, can you check that email for me? And I go, no, I
Yeah.
cannot do anything past sort of 6 o'clock, 5, 6 o'clock. I don't do anything that requires any thought that could be,
Yeah. But that
you
has
know,
taken. I mean, to get to that, it takes some time because you
yeah,
need to have, like, I was also talking about, the fact that you're almost gathering data on yourself
yeah, yeah,
and you're trying, to understand. So the longer it goes on, the more you understand how you're
mhm,
functioning now, and what you can do and can't do anymore, and how you can pace things differently,
yeah,
and how you can where your energy levels are generally high and low. And
hmm,
so this is something that takes time too, to
yeah,
adapt to. So I think it's also good to, even if you feel like you don't want to complain
hmm,
about the situation, it's also good to be in a position where you're able to say, well, no, I can't do that now, or this is not
yeah,
possible anymore at that time. So because it's shields you from overdoing things and
yeah.
going deeper into the symptoms.
And
Yeah.
I wish that this wasn't my daughter's story of having a mom that's ill, you know.
Yeah, of course, because I was going to ask about that too, because talking about, family and how it's been received, as a mother, I think there are some things that, hit differently. And it's when you're ill and when there are things you can't do and you wish you could,
Hmm,
and you're thinking about, how your relationship is with your children and what you
hmm.
would want to do with them. Um, how has this been? Because how old is your daughter now?
She's 11 now.
So she's experienced this with you since she's been 9, then
Well, yeah, 8. Yeah, yeah.
8.
8, 9, yeah.
So how do you feel as a mum, and what have been, the struggles you've went through within yourself, in regards to
Well,
to
like
to,
I
to your
say,
daughter?
initially you're thinking this is just a short term. We'll all just cancel what we're doing, and it's fine. It was a short term thing. And then it becomes a bit longer, and then you're a bit confused. I think there was a little bit of a turning point last year. Last year in the summer, we went to Spain, and it was our first holiday overseas. And I didn't take the mobility scooter. We had to go through the school holidays, and I didn't take the mobility scooter. I felt that was too much, and it
Hmm.
doesn't have a huge battery power
Hmm.
life. But we did take the wheelchair, and she kept trying to push me in the airport, and I kept saying, no, this is for daddy to do. And obviously she's trying to help, but I'm just thinking, this isn't your responsibility to look after me. So
Yeah.
I was struggling with the whole journey.
Yeah.
Um, And so my moods and emotions were not particularly great as well. But I was getting annoyed at my husband because he was like, "It's your response," but he was getting stressed and getting snapped, and it's just the whole thing. I mean, Chris and I met when we were in Spain. We both lived and worked out there.
Okay.
So
Okay,
for us,
right.
Spain is a special place
Yeah, of
that we
course. Yeah.
want to go to.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, it's kind of, it's how the family's reacting, and you're trying to make plans for the future. And this is, I think I might have said this to you. This is one of those things that I think there was a time where I was trying different treatments and stuff, and then thinking about the future. It's like, if I think about the future and I'll be well, or I don't know, making some assumptions about that. And I suppose I'm trying to do this whole positive mental attitude thing, but it didn't work. It actually ended up making me quite sad. So
Yeah.
trying to be positive about it and trying to say, it just felt like a lie to myself, where now what I do is, this time next year, I could be better. That's great. I
Yeah.
could be worse. I could be just the same. What will be a great thing, whichever of those three? Because I mean, I know I have some control and influence on those threes, but I don't really. But as I say, when I'm thinking about the future and I'm thinking about family, I find it, I find it better for me and my mood.
Yeah.
I know that I have considered I might be better, I might be worse, I might be the same. Is it all,
Yeah.
does that kind of fit in with that? Yep, that's okay then.
But so when you came to the point of diagnosis and that you understood that this is chronic and that
Mhm.
it's probably going to go on for some
Mhm.
time and it's not going to be cured tomorrow,
Mhm.
have you been at that point through some type of grieving process in regards to, some projects you had or how
Mhm.
you imagined your life to be and the fact that you had to adapt so much? Has there been, because I've heard this too, that some people said it's like grieving your life,
Mhm.
because Irene was talking about that the other day in our interview, where she said, well, because I think she's 65, and so
Mhm.
she has been ill for 7 years now. She was a nurse, and she had this idea of what she was going to do once she retired,
Mhm.
and all of these projects she had, and everything she was really looking forward to, and then she fell ill,
Mhm.
and then after some time, she understood that this was a new way of life and a new way of functioning. So she couldn't aspire anymore to everything
Mhm.
that she wanted to do. So she was talking about a grieving process she went through, grieving her life and trying to
Mhm.
build up something new afterwards. So is this something you've experienced too? Thinking, well, if I can't do this anymore, and if I can't, have those projects, I have to, find a way to let them go. Is that something
Mhm.
you've experienced?
Well, I didn't have the diagnosis. I think it was about 18 months that
Okay.
I was. So during that 18 months, there was for me quite a lot of fear of, this could be as well as I get. It could be going downhill, and it could be going downhill fast.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. Um, so I think, in a way, with a diagnosis, there's a certain amount of relief. So I'm going through lots of different stages. I feel like when I was looking at holidays, for example, I was saying to Chris, "Oh, I said it would be lovely to go to London for a weekend," and I'm thinking about that, and then I'm trying to think of the practicalities of, I need
Yeah.
a hotel that's in the centre and whatever. And it's almost like I'd forgotten that I'm ill, because
Yeah.
my life, I've adjusted my life so much for the home.
Mm.
Um, and prior to being ill, we'd traveled a lot, we'd lived overseas, we'd done a lot of things. I'd already been thinking about writing books and stuff like that. So I'd already done a lot of, I say, the when she's saying that she put off projects to later, we were already doing stuff. We
Yeah.
were already, okay, we want to live in that country, great, we'll go. You want to write a book? Great, we'll write a book. So I'd already done those. There wasn't anything I'd put off. And then obviously in that first 18 months, it's like, okay, I think that's the biggest concern was, is this as well as I get, and that I could go downhill fast? And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, what do I need to do quickly?
Hmm. So you set up this YouTube channel. So did you set it up before
Yeah, I
before you
set
were
it up
ill?
years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, I
Okay.
set it up years ago.
But I really appreciate your videos, and I can see that you're having fun and that
Yeah.
you like, discovering things about people. And I think being nosy is very important to having, a good interview.
Yeah.
So I think
I
it's
think
really
what
good.
one of the things was, um, I think I had some advice a long time ago. I was very shy, and I used to get embarrassed to say if I didn't know a word that somebody had used.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah,
It's just like, okay, I'll pretend that I know. And then you kind of
yeah.
get caught out later. And then I said, this was years ago, and they said to me, it's much better if you just say straight away, like as
Oh
quickly
yeah,
as possible, oh, I
yeah,
don't know that word. Can you
yeah, yeah,
explain it?
yeah.
And I found from experience that when I said, oh, I don't understand this, can you just explain it? Very often they don't know how to explain it. They're using the word,
Yeah,
like, or if you're in a small group of people, nobody knows how to define
yeah,
the word.
yeah,
And you think, you know what? I thought I was on my own, and
yeah,
I'm not so much on my own. And I think that's kind of evolved that, when I'm in the interviews, sometimes I'm thinking, no, I'm not following you here. And I think previously I'd have felt like that's a fault of mine. Um, I'm not paying attention enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't have the education. I don't know the terminology that they're using.
yeah.
And it's like, I feel a lot more comfortable about myself and saying, oh, no, I didn't understand that. Oh, I think you mean something different to what I mean by that word. Can
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just, so it's kind of curiosity, but it's also just being a little bit more comfortable about, oh, I didn't catch that. I didn't hear that.
It's always interesting to learn about things and, to have
Yeah.
new information anyway. So, when you, so now I know that a lot of your videos are a little bit Ren oriented.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so how did you, what started this, and how did you, you know, learn about him as an artist, and,
Yeah.
what's pushing you to do more of that content
Yeah.
now?
Well, originally I was introduced to him by my counselor, and she was saying
Okay.
that she works with a lot of younger people. And she said, I know this artist. He was diagnosed with chronic fatigue. I think at that point, he wasn't even sure that he had Lyme disease. It was talked about, a conversation about chronic fatigue. That was what she was aware of. These younger people had listened to him. It was rap music. She said, you may want to listen to him. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, but I didn't go and look him up. So,
Okay.
but I knew of him.
Of
And
him.
so I
Yeah.
knew the story. And I think that helped. That for me, understanding that there was some crossover, because I feel like if I'd just seen the music or just seen a little bit of the music first, I might not have watched much longer, because
Yeah.
I'd have felt like he's from a different world to me.
Yeah.
He does, we don't have much in common.
Yeah.
So knowing the story, and then I found the High Ren video, and I remember sort of sitting there and watching it and thinking, um, did I just see what I think I just saw? Like,
Mm.
am I understanding this
Yeah.
correctly? And then I found a reaction video, and then I went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But just for one song, and I was like, okay, something is happening here.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah,
a lot of people, probably most people, get introduced to him by, with this video and with this
yeah,
song. But I think, what you experienced is probably a very, general experience
yeah,
with this song, because it's so different. It's just
yeah,
completely, I mean, all of the codes are just, blown away. I mean, musically,
mm,
because it's, I mean, it's not really a song. It's not a song written in a typical way. There's no hook. There's no chorus.
yeah,
I mean, it's just this conversation he's having with
mm,
himself for 9 minutes. So I think it just intrigues you
mm-hmm,
when because you're not used to hearing, that structure of music
yeah,
too.
yeah,
And so you're waiting to see what's coming next and what's coming
mm,
next. So you just, you go through the video, and then at the end you're like, well, this is completely different.
yeah,
This is something I have never heard something like this before.
yeah,
So I think it's a very, yeah, it's very important. If I'm introducing, Ren to people, usually I send them that video, because it's like, it's so, um different that people,
Yeah.
you know, get hooked really fast on that
Yeah.
too.
I feel like, well, I don't know much of his body of work. I've listened to the chapters, and in terms of his story, I'm
Yeah,
very interested in the story.
I think everything is related anyhow. I mean, things are intertwined in our lives,
Yeah.
so it does make sense, you know, what you're saying to
Oh,
me.
once. Yeah. Can I just say one other thing? So I decided to do daily videos. I saw a video with a chap called Simon Squibb, and he goes up to strangers and says, "What's your dream?" I don't know whether
Yeah,
you've seen
yeah,
him
yeah,
on
yeah.
Facebook.
No, yeah,
And then he went up to this one girl, and she was lying on the floor, and he said, "What's your dream?" She said, "To be a doctor," or something like that. And he said, "Well, what are you doing?" She goes, "Well, I got no money," whatever she said.
yeah,
And he said, "Well, do daily videos and say, I'm doing a daily video. I want to be a doctor. This is me going after my dream. I'm going to tell you what I do each day."
yeah,
And I thought, okay, it seemed fairly clear to me that she was not going to be doing daily videos.
yeah,
And I thought, but I can do that.
yeah,
And he had told me exactly the words to say. So I
yeah,
literally picked up the camera and said, I'm going to be doing daily videos. I'm going to document the journey. Because there was just that enough momentum to get started.
yep,
And then as I started that, I thought, oh, I can make another video. I'll do the daily still. Make
yeah,
another one, make another one.
yeah,
And then I made a video telling my 100 subscribers, something like that. Oh, I watch these Ren rabbit hole videos. And I said, I'm a bit embarrassed. Um, and and then I started getting the Ren fans find me, and that video I think is about 9,000 views, which isn't a lot in the big scheme,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. I understand.
for me with 100 subscribers, it
Yeah,
was a lot.
yeah, of
So
course, of course.
that's what happened. So I wasn't saying, "Oh, I found this amazing artist." I was saying, "I'm embarrassed." I'd gone down this reaction whole whatever thing, and I don't think the people that make reaction videos realize how valuable it is. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
so naive. I didn't know that they had millions of subscribers.
yeah.
I thought,
It's a very
naive.
interesting. I don't know if you know about Rosalie Elliott. If you've seen
Okay, I think I
she.
have. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe you've heard of her. So she's on YouTube too, and
yeah.
she has a reaction channel, and she did an interview with Ren. I think it was
Okay,
maybe last year or 2 years
yeah.
ago. Yeah, I think last year, and so she has one video that's really interesting about reaction videos and why
Yeah.
people are interested in reaction videos,
Mm.
because her perspective is more on the psychology side of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. She has really great content, and she seems, you know, to be a really nice person, and
Yeah.
so she's interesting to watch. But also she did this video about why people are interested in reaction videos, because it seems
Yeah.
quite strange to just be sitting in front of your
Yeah.
screen looking at someone who's looking at something else
That
and
you've
just
already seen.
that you've already seen. And yeah, I think it's very interesting. But I can get why the, you know, some reactors
Yeah.
have millions of subscribers, because they they maybe you know, just their way of showing the emotion
Mm.
is probably how a lot of people feel inside, but don't
Yeah.
always, you know, express it. So it's kind of a mirror to how we are feeling ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very interesting. I've done an analysis
Mm-hmm.
of the seven sins and of this video, just with more, you know, of the lyrics,
Mm-hmm.
because I think the lyrics are really interesting. And it's interesting to, you know, deep dive into what the meaning could be, because then that sparks
Mm-hmm.
conversation. And, you know, I've had some comments on that video of people understanding things differently. So that was
Yeah.
exactly the point of me making that
Mm-hmm.
video, is what I wanted to, you know, see how another person with another life story could interpret the same
Yeah.
lyrics differently than I did. So yeah, but I think reaction videos are not as easy to make as you know, as they seem.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, and it's really and people are interested by it too, and we've
Yeah.
touched upon that.
I had one comment. Well, I had I had one comment saying nobody's interested in hearing about your
Yeah,
journey.
yeah.
It was like somebody else saying, officially at the weird part of YouTube now.
Which is I think is a very funny comment because this can be applied to so many different
Yeah, yeah.
videos.
Mm,
But it's yeah, I I don't know if people like you doing, you know, those things should take those comments as being relevant of something.
yeah. Well, thankfully, there are other people who are saying this is really useful. And also, more than that, they're taking action. They're saying, oh, I've just started my channel. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
because
amazing.
that's the entire point of what you're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, sometimes I thought, do I need to spell it out more? That I'm not, it isn't just about me. That when I tell you, oh, I found it hard today, the goal is to share that so that you know when you're finding it hard,
Oh,
that's normal.
that comes
But I do need
across.
to spell that out.
No,
I
no,
don't know.
that it comes across that way.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think it's really. I
To
think
you,
the way
it
you,
comes across to you
yeah,
like that. But
I
I
think
think
I
some people, they see me just talking about myself.
well, I
Yeah.
mean,
They're not my people. That's okay.
yeah, exactly. That's the. I mean, it works as it does, you know, in real life too. It's like some people are going to, you know, be attracted to what you're saying and what you're doing,
Hmm.
how you're, you know, what your interests are,
Hmm.
and others are just not going to get you. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean,
Hmm.
it means it also boils down your followers to people who
Hmm.
really appreciate what you're
Yeah.
doing. So that's yeah, that's really important too.
Yeah.
And just I just wanted to know because you seem like a very positive person, and I think it's
Hmm.
because you are really deciding to put yourself in that mindset too.
Hmm.
I mean, we all have bad days and sad
Hmm.
days and, you know, difficulties and especially with chronic illness, that,
Hmm.
you know, really, really bad days too. And so it's probably not easy every day, but in a general aspect, you seem very positive about life and about, you know,
Hmm.
everything you're doing. So is there any message you would want to give to people that are experiencing chronic illness or you know some mental health issues, any message you would like to give to people watching?
Um, Not so much to people who have a chronic illness, but generally, if there's some dissatisfaction, I would say that there's possibly something about yourself that you've misunderstood or that you don't know. And one of the things for me was, there's been a few different instances in my life. So when I was earlier, I got very frustrated and I was depressed and different things like that. I don't understand this. I don't understand this. I'm all the careers advisors and everything have said, do this, do this, do this, and you'll be, this is what you're meant to do. And then this might come off a bit weird. I hope it sounds okay, but and then I did an IQ test and I
Hmm.
ended up getting into Mensa, which is high
Hmm.
IQ.
Yep.
When I'd left school at 16. So
Hmm.
I'm like, I fundamentally didn't understand something of myself
Hmm.
that I thought because I did stupid things sometimes that I wasn't very smart.
Yeah, yeah,
And actually, there were other reasons why I
yeah,
was making those
yeah,
things. And I needed to get some better information and a different explanation.
yeah.
And that was, although it sounds like a bragging thing to say, it was really fundamental to, oh, I need to go back to school then. Uh, you
Oh
know,
yes, well it's not
completely
bragging.
turnaround.
It's not bragging, it's understanding how your brain functions
Yeah,
and how
yeah,
your mind processes things. So it's
yeah,
not, I don't think it's bragging. I think it's just
yeah,
that we all have a different way
yeah. And
of
as
the,
I say, I do lots of stupid things. So that's not, it's, but there are alternative explanations for some of those things that I do. The one that I think is most useful for people rather than, I think if you want to check your intelligence, if you believe in those measures and you're interested, go check that. But particularly, I did a test. They call it the Big Five personality traits.
yeah,
Have you heard of this
yeah,
one?
yeah,
And one of the factors is called openness.
Yeah.
and openness to experience, openness to learning,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's positively associated with creativity.
Yeah.
Now, I think I had associated creativity, as in, am I a creative person, with more skills
Mm-hmm.
and more, I'm really good at this thing, that would make
Mm-hmm.
me a creative. So because I didn't see myself as being really good or studied something, I didn't see myself as a creative person.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was doing this, I thought, I love travel. I love meeting people. I love all new information and the arts and different things like that. And I feel happier creating and making things. And then I saw an interview with Jordan Peterson, and he was saying one of the issues with people who have this high openness, which is correlated with creativity, it's not just that they enjoy creativity, they need to create.
Yeah.
They need to make
Yeah.
something. And I didn't understand that before. And I think having this personality trait test and having it described as openness and open to an experience made me realize, oh, I need to create something every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm going to be super skilled and I'm going to be
Oh,
an
yeah.
amazing artist.
Yeah.
It means I need to create something every day to be happy.
Yeah.
So more than just for people who are chronically ill or something, it may be that they don't understand that there's something that would make them happier. And it's just a function of how their brain works. It's not,
Yeah.
you're going to be the next best architect or whatever. It's just,
If you want to go and see Joanne's page, it's Joanne Whitlock
yes, that's right. Yeah.
and it's Joanne Whitlock is your handle on every social.
No, I think on the Facebook and Instagram, it's Joanne Whitlock UK, but
Okay.
just because it wasn't available. So
So Instagram, Facebook,
it's
and
Joanne Whitlock
YouTube.
UK. But if you go to the YouTube, you'll see the links are there, and there's a link tree there. So all the
Okay.
links are open to you. Just
Perfect.
remember, if you remember my name, great.
Yeah. Well, in the description, there's going to be the link to your channel anyway. So
That's
go and
great.
check out Joanne.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Unheard. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to get more of that. And check out the description of the video and the links in my bio to see how you can help with the research. See you soon.